Okay, so here's the question hardly anybody has probably asked anybody. What am I talking about? Here's the question. How would you like to be remembered? Let's talk about this, and I'll be right back. Okay, there might be a technical problem there. Sometimes it works really great and sometimes it doesn't. Okay. Anyway, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Jan. Welcome to another episode of my channel, the Save Money and More channel. This is an and more kind of video. I would like to talk to you today about how would you like to be remembered? Now, I was watching a really old classic show and, of course, the bird clock. I couldn't even time it any better than that. There he goes. This is in the evening, mind you. But anyway, no escape there, right? I was watching a really old show, and it's a series of show where a bunch of kids, you might remember them growing up, they call them gang comedies, our gang comedies, and so fun to watch, or some people refer to as little rascals and whatever. And there was this particular episode where some children were boarding in a boarding house. The kids were boarding there, and there was this really mean old lady running the place. Like, she literally crowed. I'm not even kidding you. Then there was this, older gentleman, and they referred to him as captain. He was like, I guess he, I don't know, was in charge of the youngsters, and he was also their teacher, and they were temporarily staying at this old time boarding house and just like putting up with a lot of negative stuff. Was just like really awful. In fact, the lady was so crazy and so mean. She literally crowed. Ever hear like the sound of a crow? I mean, honestly, she would go like this, rah! Like she would say clean up or whatever. She's just extremely really moody person. But this episode was like so weird. I think I might actually I could get it and actually hook it up in the description so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Would you like to be remembered as that kind of a character? You have to see the episode I'm talking about. I think the name of it was Mush and Milk. I think that was the episode's name. Okay. I'm just saying. All right. So, too funny, too funny. How would you like to be remembered? Hmm. If you want to be remembered like that lady, I'm not sure. If you want to be remembered as a gentleman, he was great. He promised the kids a better life. There were a bunch of kids. You'd have to see this episode to know precisely what I'm talking about. But the bottom line is, how would you like to be remembered? We're not here forever. Okay. Sometimes we say hello to things in life, and sometimes we say goodbye to things in life. Sometimes you see a person and they've been around part of your life every single day for many years, and then you get the bad news. Hey, did you hear about so and so? And then 9 out of 10 times people say, but wait a minute, I just spoke to him yesterday. Has that ever happened to you? I know it sounds kind of gloomy doomy, but life is not always, roses and lollipops and sunshine. Sometimes there's that little bit of, the way it is in real life. But I was just curious to know, how would you like to be remembered? I would like to be remembered as the person that lent an ear, that tried, the person that tried. Okay. um some people, there's a lot of coming in and coming out, especially at this moment in time, right? There's a lot of coming ins and coming outs, and I ask myself, people give opinions on a lot of things, and some of the stuff that one learns about some people, like, you ask yourself, do you want to be remembered like that? Well, I think we have a chance now, while we're here, still alive and breathing, to leave better memories, to leave a better impact for our future. We do that by, well, I guess, exhibiting kindness, being a good listener. Um, I mean, I happen to be a decent speaker, but there's more to life than just speaking. There's a time to speak, and there's a time to hear. A time to hear versus a time to actually listen to what people are actually saying. Like, sometimes I think like it's like a noise in the background, like hearing just a lot of sounds of talk, 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 talk. Too much of it sometimes, right? Because we are so many times bombarded with media of all sorts and everything that after a while becomes like this weird, like low key noise, in the background of our minds, and it just like doesn't mean that much anymore. And that's not a good thing. I know this. I definitely don't want to be remembered like that lady that crows in that boarding house. You've got to see that. You've got to see that episode. I'm telling you. So while we're in the midst of change, and absolutely, we are like literally on the precipice of change, big changes. Sometimes change is scary for some people. For actually everyone gets a little bit of a little bit of fear with fear of the unknown, or how's it going to be, whatever. In general, in life, okay. The only thing that I could suggest is take it one day at a time. Take all these changes, one day at a time. Don't let it get you down. Just try to continue living in optimism. This is really important. Living an optimistic life, a life of hope, no matter what is going on around you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And this is a person that lives in a city where a lot of things go on. So, I mean, I told you where I was on that ninth month on an 11th day, about 2001. Okay. And just a couple blocks away from there, just a couple blocks away from there. And actually, I was on my way to building number 5. Building 5, because that's where I wanted to get my transportation for where I had to go that day. All right. So, yeah, even, remembering all these things, one has to look back and take something from whatever it is that happened, in that time. Why would people so much camaraderie at that time? Why does it take a negative event to bring people together? Why does it have to get to that? Do you want to be remembered as the person that has to wait for a big thing to happen, or do you want to be remembered as the person that was humble and brought cold water bottles to the people running up the street? I lost a dear friend of mine, well, no, it's not a couple of years back. It's a number of years back. And he died of related illnesses because of that experience that I mentioned on that 11th day at a ninth month in 2001. And he helped distribute water bottles. He was not wearing a mask. All he cared about was helping the folks that you've seen probably many images of running up the street with their, soot all over, soot and dirt and construction dust, and just all the bad signs of, things of that time. And he's no longer with us, and it's really, a sad thing. I would like to look back and remember that person with great courage. I would like to look back. This is a civilian, not a firefighter, by the way, just a regular guy. Okay. And he was a super of a local building. And when that happened, instead of running away from, he ran to with his cold bottles of water to help the people. Everybody that we know that knows that person could look back fondly at that person. What a great way to remember something like that. A terrible thing that happened. What happened was a few years later, he had, terrible diagnosis, and it was definitely related to that. And yeah, 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 yeah. So there are still people to this day that are affected by certain things. You see where I'm going with this? Is he looked back fondly, or is he looked back like that old crow lady? No, fondly. Hero, good person, thought of others first and himself last. And I will never forget that about my friend, ever. I wish that person was still around, but he's not. He had to go to glory because he did a great thing. How do you want to be remembered? There are a lot of things that are going on at this moment in time. And like that time of the year, the end of the year and the beginning of the year, see a lot of shows about famous people, and those look backs at famous people, what contributions they made to society as a whole. But what about the people that aren't so famous, that you never hear about? I hear a lot of human interest stories that are beyond amazing. People making sacrifices beyond sacrifices. People that treat somebody to dinner, for example, they didn't know that that was going to happen. And they just make someone's day because maybe they just wanted to brighten someone's day. Or somebody that volunteers and reads to an elderly person. Or somebody that gives up their time in some way, shape, manner, or form and goes food shopping. Or takes $100 out of their wallet every month because they care about other people. Because that's how they roll. That's the way the good Lord designed that person. How do you want to be remembered in your life? Like the stingy old crow or the nice, kindly gentleman? You've got to see that video. And that's where I'm going to leave it. We have a lot of wonderful, exciting days coming up ahead. And I do live in a world of optimism, besides the fact of the challenges that we face today. But we can't face the challenges alone. Everybody has to work together. Hey, that's a nice concept, isn't it? Working together, getting past the fluffery, getting past the labeling. That's got to stop. All that labeling is nothing more than just rattling noises like the noises I was talking about earlier today. It is my hope and prayer that all of us get to be remembered fondly. How do you want to be remembered?